Given the title of the video, you'd think I'd be making analogies between the book Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen and, well, the current situation going on in and around our coastlines and, of course, the rivers in the UK. But unfortunately, I've never read Pride and Prejudice. Maybe I should get around to reading it at one point, or maybe at least watch the film. I'll get there eventually. I've got a lot of other things, I want to read and whatnot at the moment. So yeah, I'll maybe get around to it eventually. But if you've been noticing on Twitter very, very recently, there have been a lot of concerns about, and not only concerns, but we're talking video showing the extent of sewage discharge being put into our oceans and being put into our rivers. Now, some of you may remember, wind the clocks back a year, there were surfers against sewage. There was a big protest against this and a big, petition that at the time when it was initially launched didn't get a lot of attention. And luckily, in its last 3 days, managed to get over 40k in subscriptions. That was a lot of subscriptions, and it triggered a debate in the House of Lords about these environmental protections. Not only that, but there was a pop star musician, can't remember what it was called now, Richard Starkey or something like that. It might be getting his name completely wrong. But he was very, very, just like Mick Lynch is at the moment, articulating the public mood and their feelings on this situation. No one wants to see hundreds of thousands of litres being pumped into rivers and oceans in the UK. It is just not on. So, how did we get here? Why are we here? And what are the potential solutions? Well, before we get into that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel. And of course, there's the YouTube thank you button down below as well. And of course, there's the YouTube subscription button as well called the Pony Club, where you can join that as well. And, come along and join us for some, some pony fun, as they say. So let's start with all this. How did we get here? Well, the simple answer is Brexit. One of the big Brexit benefits, and just go back to yesterday where Jacob Rees-Mogg was saying that, look, we need to realign the UK state and that the UK government should not be fulfilling certain functions and roles. And one of those functions that the government currently fulfills are environmental standards and protections. And we had a lot, and I mean a lot, of EU law that was on those environmental protections, mainly being the big one that the EU could fine water companies if they did things like this. And well, since Brexit has really happened, what do you think's happened? Not only have select committees found that water companies are not investing in infrastructure to make sure that we aren't leaking hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. No new reservoirs have been built by these companies to, protect us from droughts, as we have seen so far potentially during this summer in many areas of the country. But also, they do not have basic these facilities to stop overflowing of all this sewage. And as a result, it has flowed out into beaches and into rivers. And very, very quickly, we have seen the environmental campaign take this up. But initially, it wasn't taken up. It was only after a concerted push and bringing it into public light more and more, mainly the Surfers Against Sewage campaign, which was a fantastic, campaign, which really brought public attention as to what was going on. And now, again, only a year later, we are seeing new videos, new photos of all this raw sewage being dumped into UK rivers and along the coastlines. So what are the government doing about it? Well, effectively nothing. Boris is on holiday somewhere, and so is the rest of the government. They don't really care. They're trying to currently elect, Liz Truss as their potential leader. So eventually it will be left up to Liz Truss to sort out. And I fully expect Labour, the Green Party, all these opposition parties to push back on the government and say, you passed a bill just a couple of months ago that was meant to sort this out. You said that this was going to solve all the problems, and they pulled some very sneaky tricks in the Lords to try and get this passed, even after the Lords themselves came in and said, yeah, there are some serious problems with this environmental bill. What are you going to do about it? And of course, they pulled some very sneaky tricks and managed to get their bill passed, even convincing the Lords that their new amendments that they had made to the bill would solve all their current problems. But of course, it hasn't. So that's why we are here. Brexit, the bonfire of regulations that the Brexiteers love to talk about, and of course, lack of actual government focus on what really needs to be done, and a focus on corporations rather than environmental protection that really the government should be focusing on. So how do we solve this problem? Well, first things first, we need to bring back these environmental protections, bring back the government's ability to be able to fine water companies if they are not doing their jobs, and ultimately get them to start heavily spending all this massive profit that they are making, because the water people who are the shareholders of these water companies have brought in some big dividends. And all that money really should be going to be building this new infrastructure, to be building these reservoirs, and to make sure that this massive discharge of sewage into our lakes and our rivers and across our, coastlines does not happen. And if it does, they should be fined not only for the cause of it, they should be fined per day for how long, these incidents continue to go on, but then they should also be fined for the cleanup as well. And that will certainly make a lot of these companies rethink twice before they start acting in this way again. But ultimately, the goal now needs to be to renationalize these water companies. And I've often said that rail needs to be the big focus by the left. But you can use this entire sort of scandals, because it is going to become a scandal. Oh, trust me, not yet, but it will become a scandal. Use it to say, look, this is why we need to renationalize our water companies. These for-profit companies and this for-profit model has failed. It has failed the UK public. It is failing our environmental, and as a result has caused hundreds of thousands of pounds of maybe irreparable environmental damage into our lakes, rivers, and coastlines. We need to bring these back into public ownership so that we can use all that money that gets put into the water system, and so it is back spent, not going for profit, but it is put back into the system to make sure that pipes are safe and are not leaky, to make sure that we've got reservoirs ready for droughts and other potential environmental stuff that could go on, and to make sure that this sewage doesn't happen. Because what caused this? It was Brexit. Like it or not, and a lot of people and a lot of Brexiteers along the coastline are certainly not very happy about this, but that's the case. And I know one of the things that was trending with this was general election, because people were just quite frankly fed up. This is the second time this has happened. The government's already said that they've passed their environmental bill so that this wouldn't happen, but here we are a year later, and surprise, surprise, it's happened again. The government are not going to risk a general election. Doesn't matter how much they screw up. Doesn't matter how much pressure gets put on them. They are not going to risk the next 2 years where they have absolute supreme power to essentially do what they want. Because they've got such a massive majority, no one can stop them. And ultimately, it's, can we force them into a general election, or can we get into such a state where the Tories are so defeated that they can never potentially come back as an electoral force in this country? I don't know. It may be possible, but we'll have to wait and see. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you live by the coast or one of these rivers that's been affected? Let me know what you've seen over the past couple of years since Brexit and what's happened in your area. But of course, like I say, hit the like, hit the share button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page. There's the Pony Club down below as well with the YouTube subscriptions. And of course, there's the YouTube thank you button as well, which is the one-off donation link for YouTube. And of course, there is also the Buy Me Coffee link down below where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.